Snaking its way through the countryside of Southern Virginia, this beautiful 3.2-mile strip of asphalt has been around since 1957. But now, for the second time in 3 years, the Virginia International Raceway is home to the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Welcome to the 59th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs, our broadcast presented by Mazda. And how appropriate. Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest field at the runoffs almost always is this class, and this one is no exception. 60 Spec Miatas just about to take to the track for one of the feature events of the weekend, I think, no doubt. Sitting alongside me, Tom O'Gorman, four-time solo national champion. Tom, there's all kind of stories coming up on this one.
Almost too many to tell in such a short race, but we are here for the National Championship Runoffs, the one that so many people lean forward in their chairs for here at Spec Miata, and a little bit of drama already. You see a dry line on a racetrack that has not been dry for over 36 hours. It has been just pouring rain here in Virginia, but it is dry, something the drivers didn't really expect, but I think a lot of them are probably pretty happy about. The only problem with that is there's a little bit of mist in the air, so there's probably some nervous guts on pit lane.
Yeah, and we're hearing from our spotters down on pit lane that nobody is on wet tires.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to come out on slicks, which I think is the right call.
Agreed.
But if the rain comes, who knows? As you can see a dry race line, but look off that line. If you go side by side, and I'll tell you, there's going to be a lot of side by side in this race. You're going to get off in the wet, and that's going to cost you all kinds of problems.
It really is something you can't avoid in most classes, but definitely here in Spec Miata. And the other thing that we need to talk about a lot is teamwork. This class has developed into a class that you really can't be much of a lone wolf. You have to at least be friendly with someone, if not actual teammates with them. And there's the conversation about a teammate for the race. Then there's the conversation a teammate for the week in qualifying. Some of these guys have been teammates for the entire year working for this specific race. And if you have that teamwork, that dynamic that you have, just an innate trust for the person that's in front or behind you, that has a little bit more power than the guy who just linked up with him somebody else this morning.
And that all works right up until the last lap.
Yep.
And then it's every man for himself. So yeah, looking forward to this one. It's always a great race, and we should have some good stuff. As we've got the third member of our broadcast team, Hayward Wagner, is down on the pit lane, or may have made his way to the grid. I'm not quite sure, but we'll get a little pre-race activity from him. But we've got a big field of 60 cars here, and it'll take us a while to get them introduced. If we don't get all the names read, please forgive us. We'll try to get everybody mentioned on the broadcast, but there's just no way we can introduce the entire 60-car field during the course of the pace lap. We've got a track map here to give you some indication of what this 17-turn, 3.27-mile track is all about. Take us around, if you would, Tomo.
Well, now that it's dry, things are back to normal here at VIRginia International Raceway. Down into a heavy braking zone at turn 1, a fantastic passing opportunity, but it happens right at the beginning of the lap, which is a bit of a problem. We'll get to that point. But this is the twistiest section through NASCAR at turn 3 into the lower S's at turns 4 through 6. A lot of changes of direction, going to be very single file if you want to be quick. Then the uphill S is easily flat in these cars, but there's going to be bump drafting through those corners at 7, 8, 9, and 10. South Bend, one of the fastest and riskiest corners on the track, into the slowest section at Oak Tree, slowing down to a very, very low minimum speed onto the longest straightaway. Getting a good drive off of 12 is very important. Then this final sector, if you see that longest straightaway, that's the best passing opportunity to win this race, unless you get such a good run out of Hogpen at 16 and 17 that you get draft by at the start-finish line. Lap of VIR is a long one in these Spec Miatas, but there's going to be a hot and heavy action.
Let's head down to the grid as our third member of the broadcast team, Hayward Wagner. Hey, Hayward.
Morning, guys. As the story has been for the last 36 hours, weather is the headline, and it is definitely starting to mist again. The dry lines are gone. The course is now back to a consistent wet all the way across. Every single one of these cars coming off the grid on dry tires, most of them on sticker dries. 60 cars in this field. I was talking to pole sitter Danny Steyn this morning. He said there are world champions in this race. There are national champions in this race. There are children in this race. All kinds of diversity, but it's going to be a grandfather that leads them to the green.
We'll try our best to introduce as many of them as we can. We'll go counter to our normal procedure. We'll introduce the grid from the front to the back. I'll get as far as we can. And we talked about Danny Steyn. He is the pole sitter, 3-time and defending STL champion. Danny Steyn will be one to watch. Preston Pardus, sports cars pick in the 42 car to win this one. Charles Mactutus, forgive me, Charles in the number 66 out of the South Carolina region. Travis Wiley has just come up from Road Atlanta, only qualified on the first day, and he's up to 4th position in the 77 car. The 59 of Grayson Farischon from the Oklahoma region. The 70 of Elivan Goulart starts 6th out of the New England region, a 4-time champion, most recently in STU in 2013. Highest placed rookie in the field, Raiden Nickel, out of the Atlanta region. Car number 193 will start 7th. Car 6 is Nicholas Bruni out of the Washington, D.C. region. In row 5, the 86 of Alex Cabrera out of Central Florida, and another driver who was down at Road Atlanta making his way up here, only qualified on the first day. The 172 of Connor Zillich, the youngster out of the Central Carolina region, also a pick from Sports Car to finish on the box. Another rookie in the field, starting 11th, is the 198 of Daniel Conway out of the Washington, D.C. region. Car 4 is Rob Hines, moving over into Spec Miata. He is the 1999 Touring 2 champion out of Washington, D.C. In row 7, we've got the 8 of Anthony Garacci out of the New York region, and another rookie, Sam Craven, in the number 23 car out of the Houston region. Nick Leveroni, we saw him earlier today. He is a 19-year veteran of the field, his 19th year in the field, a former T4 champion. Nick Leverone in Nick Leverone in the 94 car out of the New England region. I'll figure that out. Moving back to 16th, the 149 of Peter Ensor out of Washington, D.C. Boris Said Jr. in the number 133 out of the San Diego region. Then Jonathan Davis in the 16 car out of Ohio. Chris Guifo out of the number 34 car out of the Finger Lakes region. A pair of rookies next in the order, starting 20th, the 95 of Jonathan Newdorf, and then the 188 of Rowan Gill out of the New England region. Starting 22nd, the 59 of Todd Burris from Central Florida. He was the champion in 2019 right here at VIR. Brett Kowalski in the 15 out of the Pan Am region. Then we got the 2 of Jim Drago, 2-time champion, most recently in 2013 out of the Mid-South region. Really unusual to see him this deep in the field. The 02 of Sean Varwig out of the Chicago region. The rookie, Eric Gerchak, out of Central Carolina in car number 22. The 48 of Frankie Barrasso out of the Florida region. Then the 112 of Marcos Vento out of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Then we've got 4 rookies in a row here. The 10 of Matthias Ramirez out of Central Florida. The 57 of Antonio Abram out of Atlanta. The 155 of Cam Eben from Appleton, Wisconsin. That's a racing family you'll know. Zach Barfield in the number 107 out of the Buccaneer region. Starting 33rd, the 71 of Greg Sorg out of Chicago. Then the 18 of Joseph Tobin from the Buccaneer region. Alan Cross in the number 49 car out of Atlanta as the cars are up into Oak Tree. Then we've got Skylar Cottrell in the 29, a rookie out of the Atlanta region. Jeremy Butts from Washington, D.C. in the 69. Domenico Lucci out of the Watkins Glen region in 46. Another rookie, the 195 of John Jenkins from the New York region. The 98 of Charlie Campbell out of Corey, Pennsylvania. Then we've got Jordan Rick Segrini, a rookie in the number 108 out of Florida. Another rookie, Stephen Clemens Jr. in the 76 out of Central Carolina. Matthew Davis in the 146 out of the Texas region. The rookie Julian DaCosta out of Central Florida in the 178 car. Amy Mills out of the Northwest region in car 14. Starting 46, the 67 of David Nagler, a rookie out of the New York region. Michael Lamania in the number 180 in the number 88, out of the South Jersey region, and coming down to the start, Theodore Cahill out of the Washington, D.C. region. I'll get through the first 50. 21 is Marshall Stalker from the New England region. Starting 50th, veteran Andrew Charbonneau out of the Central Florida region in the 89 car as they're coming down through a hog pen and getting ready to take the start of this 15-lap or 35-minute race. 60 cars, our biggest field of the runoffs, coming to the green.
Watch this. Prime starting position is on the bumper of the next car in front of you. Most of the top 10 are going to be flat out, just driving into the back of the car in front, being held back by Danny Steyn and Preston Pardus as we come to the green flag.
And there they come, under acceleration. Danny Steyn with the wipers on, clearing the windshield, indicating there is some mist in the air. Look at these cars locked together like Lego blocks as they come down into turn number 1. Steyn on the inside, Pardus on the outside. Steyn with the line, but Pardus is right there. If Steyn goes a little wide, he can force Pardus off onto the damp spot. But right at the moment, it looks like Steyn's going to hold the lead as they head toward NASCAR. Unbelievably, everybody through turn 1 without a spin. There's Danny Steyn at the point, the 42 of Pardus, right behind him. And then side by side, Mactutus and Wiley. Wiley, one of those drivers who only qualified on the first day and then spent the rest of the weekend in the Pro MX-5 Series down at Road Atlanta.
Well, Mactutus with the power play around the inside, and that's going to allow Elivan Goulart to get nose in there, but can't quite get it done in the number 70 car. Ooh, another car off. That's going to be a slippery ride in the grass, but it is under control. We're still green flag as the field is now getting more single file back through the top 5 and into the top 10.
Steyn and Pardus bump drafting on the way to the uphill S's as they work their way under the bridge, as those two lock together with Mactutus right there in the third spot at the moment.
Well, we talked about teamwork and the two teammates at the top. Travis Wiley going for a big ride. He's going to end up on the back straight with that trajectory, but he's got to keep the car under control and stopped. No ABS in these Spec Miatas, goes for a ride. I think he's going to keep it in the grass. Going back to the teammate conversation, the first two teammates on the track are Danny Steyn and Chuck Mactutus. Ooh, another big spin for Gerasi.
Ooh, and he's going to get collected. We're spinning right in the middle of the racetrack, but there he was able to get out of harm's way with a little help.
He's going to stay there until the field works its way through. The best strategy for Pardus is playing out, actually, to push the teammates away from each other, put Danny Steyn way up in front of his teammate that he wants to work with, of Chuck Mactutus, there in the top 3. And now Pardus looks to the outside, Chuck Mactutus staying within touch, and they've broken away from Elivan Goulart just a bit. Look at this scrap.
And then right behind them, the 55 going side by side as they head down the hill. Mactutus right there in third, but this battle at the front between Steyn and Pardus.
Well, one of my favorite features of VIR is happening in front of our very eyes. It's wet on a portion of the track and dry on another portion. Clearly a wet line. Pardus goes sideways, saves it, keeps it out of the grass. No way. Chuck Mactutus gets through, but Pardus, a spectacular save as we work our way towards the drier section. Look at the rain coming down.
And here comes Goulart as he goes around as well, as Pardus still trying to collect himself and get back up to speed, as another car all the way to the tire barrier on the outside of Hogpen. That is the 02 car. Let me check my listing here. I believe that's that can't be Jim Drago. That's Sean Varwig. Forgive me, Drago is in the 2, Varwig in the 02. So we now got a three-way battle. Look at Goulart all the way up to third.
Goulart a bit of a lone wolf here. He doesn't have a teammate other than Anthony Gerasi, who had that spin, qualified a little further back in the pack. So Goulart really needs to link up with these two teammates. But look, we're back to dry running. Everybody just collected a little bit of data on the back half of the track. There's going to be a lot of cautious driving on that half. High risk, high reward as the top 10 now kind of streaming through. We're taking a look at that. That is Farischon, Bruni, Zilich moving up a couple of spots that first lap. But it is the teammates, what nobody wanted to see except those two, Danny Steyn, Chuck Mactutus, in lockstep. Bump drafting isn't even ideal. They want to be pushing all the time.
Rayden Nicole, the highest placed rookie in the starting lineup in the 193, hanging on to that top 10. He's currently in 8th spot. Look at Danny Steyn get sideways, as he may have had a little help from Mactutus. And there he goes side by side. Mactutus going for the lead here.
Looks like it's wet at the top of the S's all the way back through the back straightaway. Steyn still does not want to lose this position. Look at his Goulart up the inside on Mactutus. Takes the apex. It's full wet on slicks right here.
Oh, yeah. It is greasy indeed, as Goulart side by side with Mactutus. Right behind him is Preston Pardus, recovering after his near off at Hogpen a lap ago.
Look at the orange Miata of Todd Burris. Big opposite lock, trying to get the power down at Hogpen. We've got a spinner off the inside of the circuit at Hogpen. Goes down the hill just a little bit. It's way down the hill. All right, pouring on this side of the track. The top 6 have come together. How risky do you want to be? Pardus checks up a little bit. That's going to allow the blue car around the outside. Goulart into the back of Mactutus just a little bit. The 59 is Grayson Farischon. Moves up in front of Pardus, but Steyn looks a little bit more composed than the rest of these cars.
No surprise. Danny Steyn, of course, also competing in a MX-5 in Super Touring Light, where he is the defending champion. as they work their way down onto the front straightaway. It's been an eventful first 3 laps, no surprise.
But it speaks to the quality of the field that we haven't had any significant offs or significant incidents yet. And I think we're going to keep it that way as the field's still green. Teammates at the front from OPM out of Atlanta. Danny Steyn, Chuck Mactutus going side by side. This is coordinated. They need to swap positions because the cars overheat. The way they run so close together, they have to make sure that they're swapping positions. That's not what they wanted to see, though. Elivan Goulart takes the position as well.
He's the meat in the sandwich of those two teammates. And look at the 59 of Farischon doing a great job up into 3rd spot. Danny Steyn all the way back to 4th now. He was the runaway leader here not too long ago. Runaway leader by a car length.
One of the other favorites is shuffled all the way back to 7th for Preston Pardus. That's going to bring Farischon, Rayden Nickel, and Nick Bruni still into that battle as well. So now this is kind of just pulled the pin on the grenade, and they're dealing with the consequences as Mactutus getting pushed away by Elivan Goulart at the front. Farischon goes to 3rd.
And don't count out Connor Zilic right there at the tail end of that group in 8th position. He's another one of the drivers in the Pro MX-5 series that competed down at Road Atlanta just this past weekend.
Look at the pavement getting darker as they climb up the S's. The track is now completely dry. Farischon looks to the outside, maybe just for a sight line at South Bend. A big lunge from the youngster. The 193 of Rayden Nickel is fearless in the wet. Everybody said if it gets wet, that's the only car to beat.
Rayden Nickel side by side with Danny Steyn as they come into the first apex, and then around the outside, the 72 car, the 172 of Connor Zilic, as he's mixing it up now, up into the top 5. Look at the cars getting squirrely. You can see Todd Burris in that orange car, working his way into that second draft as the lead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 8.
Look at how much rain is in the background, a little off in an impact for it looks like the 195 car, but in the background of that shot before we zoomed in, it is pouring with rain, what looks like down at Hog Pen. Be a local caution here at Oak Tree for a moment, but they're coming into that heavy rain section now with Chuck Mactutus in the unknown position.
He's at the front. Elivan Goulart, the veteran, right behind him as they come down the hill.
Visibly cautious this lap.
Farischon in the 59. Again, everybody being a little tiptoey as they're coming down. They know, if you drop a wheel off at the exit of Hog Pen, you are going for a ride. Danny Steyn has recovered back up into 4th spot now. But his team, the car that went off there at Oak Tree, the 195 of John Jenkins, has been able to get back underway. Look at the 59 of Farischon going wide as he tries to go around Elivan Goulart on the outside. Goulart squeezing him right to the edge of the track, but giving him racing room. Now he's going to have the inside line as they come into NASCAR.
Farischon, the mover and shaker so far. Don't rule out also Connor Zilic in the black with neon highlights. He was the one that was willing to race the most last year at Indy, and it paid off for him. He raced his way from about 9th at one point, I think, all the way back up to a podium position. But it is Chuck Mactutus, who I think is actually doing a very good job of controlling the field to not sink his teammate. It looks like he's trying to make sure that everybody is held back just a little bit, but Farischon wants nothing of it. He wants to race. Looking him into 2nd over Elivan Goulart.
And if this were to last the way it is, Chuck Mactutus would be the first winner of the Super Sweep. All he needs to do is win. He doesn't need any help. Chuck Mactutus can win the Super Sweep, and he would be the first winner of the 2022 runoffs if he's able to maintain his lead. But we got a lot of racing yet to go. Look at this gaggle of cars. We were talking about the 56 of Todd Burris working his way up into that group.
Yeah, and he goes side by side with Peter Enser around the outside of Oak Tree. I think this section of track is actually starting to dry out pretty quickly as that storm moved through. And Burris not able to get it done there in the orange 56. He's going to slot right back in behind Peter Enser, and these guys all chasing, I believe, the 4 of Rob Hines.
Burris just set the fast lap of the race on the last lap in the number 56 car. So he has obviously got the pace. And remember, won this race the last time they were here in 2019. Mactutus still with the lead, but stuck right on his back bumper is Grayson Farischon.
Right now, Preston Pardus seems to be the weakest car in this front group. He's kind of broken back and held back the 6 of Bruni and the 193 of Nickel, and Nickel has slipped all the way to the back. Maybe took a little bit too big of a risk and slipped to the back of this top, call it top 8 group.
But we're still at very early stages here, just about to complete race lap number 4. Chuck Mactutus with his dreams of a super sweep here. The Super Sweep, of course, winning the U.S. Majors in your conference, winning the Hoosier Super Tour, and winning the runoffs. It's probably the most difficult trophy for a road racer to win.
Little push right before the braking zone. Farischon pops to the outside. Mactutus defends to that inside, but this is how Farischon got by Goulart. Is he able to loop the outside one more time? No, Mactutus shuts the door. Goulart is going to close back up. Farischon for the over-under to the inside from turn 1, outside for turn 2.
Mactutus able to maintain that position. Elivan Goulart just behind him, and look at Connor Zilich as he has gotten around the pole sitter, Danny Steyn. He's now up to 4th. Zilich flying right now.
Steyn slipping back. Wow, Mactutus really slinging his car through in the lead. The field really compressing here in the tighter corners at the lower S's.
Through the snake they come, looking like a snake as these cars. And Todd Burris continues his charge up to 9th last time by after starting well back in the field. He qualified 22nd. Look at this 4-car train. Danny Steyn falling off the back of this group.
He is, and that's because they're bump drafting through the S's. They'll even bump draft at the apex of South Bend as they come into view here. Watch, he's going to close up to the bumper and then push through the exit on Goulart is Connor Zilich there in the black and highlighter yellow. Kind of 2 pairs of cars working together, and that's actually allowed through the braking zone. Danny to get back. He needs a good exit right here. Ooh, big slide for Farischon.
It's damp right there at the exit. A couple of cars dropping a wheel off. Danny Steyn going to take advantage of Connor Zilich's mistake. And he is able to draft right by him. As Zilich lost his momentum, dropping that wheel off at the outside of Oak Tree Bend.
Big power move from Steyn. Now he's going to try to tuck into the back of Goulart and work his way slowly closer to Chuck Mactutus, those 2 teammates. No other teammates really involved in this battle. I think everyone is kind of separated out as Farischon. These guys are impromptu teammates by circumstance more than by plan, but Farischon really, really wants to push Mactutus away so they can have their own battle. This section of track still looking pretty damp.
Mactutus, of course, with some track knowledge. I'm sure he's from Little Mountain, South Carolina. This certainly would have to be his home track. I'm sure he's got many laps here.
A driver that's not been racing all that long. Started with autocross in an 80 horsepower diesel Mercedes. And now that was only, I think he said 5 or 6 years ago that he got in the Spec Miata 3 years ago and is now leading the runoffs. Look at this scrap.
It's the 16 car leading that group is Jonathan Davis. That is back for 14th position. Daniel Conway in the 198, Sam Craven in the 23, all part of this battle. Sweeping around the outside there is the 71 car. Travis Wiley, surprisingly, all the way back to 21st position as he started much higher up in the group. Another one of those Pro MX-5 runners.
To wonder if there was an off involved there. We see Jim Drago, a big lunge up the inside on the 133 car. That is Boris Said Jr. A couple of East Street Racing teammates working together, and for some reason those East Street cars have not really had the pace through qualifying. They qualified in the bottom half of the top 20, and these are drivers who have national championships to their name. They just haven't had either the teamwork or the coordination or something. Farischon to the lead, a power draft around the outside into the uphill S's, pounds the curb at 7 and takes over the top spot in the 59 car.
Maybe it was too much curb, though. We'll see if Mactutus can get back around him. As right behind them, Goulart and Danny Steyn. Connor Zilich lurking there at the tail end of this group as they come into the first apex at Oak Tree.
We're careful to speculate here in the booth, but I do have to wonder, talking teamwork again, are Steyn and Mactutus on their team radio? They are in communication with each other. Steyn maybe saying, Chuck, get back here. We can work together if you come back. Maybe letting that move happen on that straightaway. Otherwise, I really don't see maybe then a misshift how that could have materialized. But Farischon to the top, Goulart still there in 3rd, Steyn 4th. The top 5 rounds out with Connor Zilich.
Preston Pardus, who started 2nd, back in 6th position. Nicholas Bruni and Rated Nickel, the highest placed rookie, back in that 8th spot. Mactutus staying right with Farischon as they come down the hill. You can see the wipers intermittently sweeping the precipitation off these cars as it is still raining out there. But these guys all on slicks handling this weather extraordinarily well.
Yeah, the circuit getting drier on the back half where we had that little pop-up rain shower. Still a huge tip of the hat to the entire field for getting through those first 2 laps cleanly, but we are, I think, dry and clear for the remainder of this race. I'll knock on the wood wall here next to me, but that top 7 or 8 still working their lead bigger and bigger. Todd Burris goes to the front of the second pack here in 9th.
He's, up into 9th spot, or 10th it looks like, as they come across the line side by side. Right behind him, Nick Leverone and Alex Cabrera. I think that's Cabrera up in just behind Burris now. Diving to the inside.
Tight stuff. Burris is going to run wide into the mud. Got to get the car checked up for the slow corner, turn 4, into the back. Whoa, huge drifts. Sideways entry into turn 4, and Burris controls it masterfully.
Cabrera hanging on to the position, but Burris making up for that off course, dropping a couple wheels off there at turn number 4. As this is the second draft, if you will, starting in 10th position.
Losing minimal time, so that's going to be Axel Cabrera, then Todd Burris. Nick Leverone, I think, was in this pack somewhere. There he is, 5th now. He was 3rd in this pack last time through the line.
We're about halfway through this exciting Spec Miata race. Let's just take a brief pause as we thank some of the partners making this broadcast possible.
Focus, guys. We're in a race to the finish, okay?
Here's where the rubber meets the road.
Have these initiatives moved the needle, like, at all?
Well, let's shift gears a minute.
We're really kind of at the apex here.
We need to put the pedal to the metal. We need to nail those hairpin turns, cross that finish line, and take that checkered flag. Woo!
Hit the track with the world's largest motorsports calendar, track day insurance, and more. Haggerty. Let's drive together.
Introducing the first ever Mazda CX-50.
Welcome back to a thrilling battle for Spec Miata here as we're at the Virginia International Raceway for the 59th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. This is the battle for the lead. Grayson Farischon in the blue car, Charles Mactutus in the number 66, the black with yellow accents, working his way through NASCAR. Right behind him, the silver of Elivan Goulart, and then Danny Steyn. Right behind him, the pole sitter and 3-time national champion. Connor Zilich in the black car with the Dayglow highlights, if you will. And right behind him, Preston Pardus, who started on the front row, but has been mired just outside the top 5 for much of this race. Nicholas Bruni bringing up the rear of this lead draft.
This has been the chaos battle, though, for about 9th. Axel Cabrera, I think, is just leading this battle, perhaps, but there's Jim Drago involved. Actually, no, this is a little further back, about 17th on the field. But this scrap has not gone single file for a couple of corners now.
Yeah, Zach Barfield in the 107, Jim Drago, Charlie Campbell, all involved in that battle. Again, really a surprise to me that the East Street Racing guys have not been able to get closer to the front. Drago, like I think a 3-time champion in his own right, 2-time champion, most recently in 2013, just not on the pace here. At least not to run with the front runners anyhow.
Whoa, big contact between Charlie Campbell and the black car just behind. They sorted it out. That's the 133 again of Boris Said Jr., who's had a pretty eventful race. They tried to go side by side into those uphill S's, and that was not going to work.
Goulart now out in front.
Whoa, a huge shakeup. Look where Farischon dropped all the way to the back of this pack. He was leading in front of Chuck Mactutus last time across the line and is going to cross the line about 7th this lap. Elivan Goulart goes to the lead in front of Chuck Mactutus, but check this out, the teammates back together. Mactutus and Steyn running in 2nd and 3rd.
And Connor Zilich right behind him in the 4th spot. And Zilich always there. Preston Pardus just behind him. So Elivan Goulart, veteran campaigner in the number 7, the silver number 70. Up in front of his teammate is Chuck Mactutus. You can see him with the bumper contact. Let's see if they're going to spread out. Yep, they do, 3 wide. Down into turn number 1. Mactutus going to retake that lead. as Goulart goes around the outside.
Big slide for Danny Steyn, trying to get the power down early, almost 3 wide on the exit, leaning on each other. Goulart and Mactutus. Goulart in the silver, Mactutus in the black, trying to leap the outside now. Zilich alongside for third. Oh, barely lets Danny Steyn stay on the track.
Danny Steyn, a little touch there as he has to take evasive action. Zilich up to third. Steyn and Pardus, and then at the tail end of this group, Nicholas Bruni in the 6th.
And with that contact, the driver's side mirror for Steyn is turned in, and the passenger side mirror for Zilich is turned out. They have now lost some visibility, but they're driving on spidey senses more than anything else. Goulart continuing to lead, a little bit of a lone wolf in this pack. And Farischon is just gone.
Yeah, he was the leader when we went to the break. Farischon all the way back to 7th and is falling behind. So some sort of problem for Grayson Farischon. He may have run out of tire. As closing up quickly behind him, the rookie, Raiden Nickel, closing up on Farischon. Nickel looking for 7th spot. We'll see if we can see visibly if there's anything wrong with Farischon's car.
It looks to just be down on power. The only thing I can do, huge drift, and he's going to go around. Man, something really unhappy with Farischon's car. Perhaps maybe an alignment issue on the right or the left rear. It was a very strange spin.
Yeah, very strange indeed. He's able to get back underway.
Heartbreak for a driver that led this race.
Yeah, no kidding. As we'll see as he clips the first apex and just takes too much curve. And around he goes. That promotes Raiden Nickel up into 7th spot.
Back for the lead. Whoa, Bruni and Steyn. Steyn gets spun across the nose, gathers it up. Pardus sees it all happen. Pardus gets taken out.
Oh, man. That all started with Bruni getting in the back of Danny Steyn. And Danny just trying to recover the car, get it back under control, and then he bumped Preston Pardus. Wrong place, wrong time. Another car off, way off to driver's right. We've got a car heading for the south pit lane, as there may have been some contact here. As you can see, the dirt being dragged up there in that little access road to the south pits.
Here's that incident again between Bruni and Steyn. Steyn pinched him a little too much, in my opinion, and then had to gather it up. Locks the front tires, and unfortunately, Pardus left him exactly a car width, but no more, and there, he needed a lot more than that. Little hand out the window. It's heavily raining. The leaders are off. Mactutus and Goulart both go for a big ride. No way. Connor Zilich to the lead.
Yeah, again, you can see the rain on the camera shot there, as that's at turn 1 as they left their braking too late. Here we come. We get a replay of it. The wipers go on Goulart. That gives you some indication. They hold the braking too late. Both he and Mactutus go off, and Connor Zilich at the front. There comes Bruni up into 2nd spot.
So it's going to be Zilich with 1 day of qualifying. Qualified, I believe, 10th, and now finds himself in heavy rain, inheriting the lead, and they're all spread out at this point. Danny Steyn, we're hearing from Hayward, is on the pit lane with damage. He's calling it quits.
Oh, that's a shame. 3rd spot, we believe, is Connor Zilich, or Mactutus, should we say, I think is in 3rd. No, there's the 172 of Zilich by himself in the lead. Then that's Bruni behind him. And then I think that may be Raiden Nickel.
I believe you're right. It is the 193 of Raiden Nickel that also survived by just being a little too far away from these incidents to have any involvement in them. He's just kind of inherited this podium position, but you can see very, very wet on this half of the track now as more changing conditions. The top 2 cars both missing their passenger mirrors pointed in the right direction. Now this battle is getting very exciting. Farischon continues his dramas. He's off into the slippery grass.
And Todd Burris right up there into the thick of it now. As I think that's Levero just in front of him. The 4-car train working their way up the hill. Burris dekes out to the outside, bringing 2 cars with him. That'll give him the added momentum to get to the front as they get to the top of the hill for Roller Coaster.
Look at the speed they get to carry past Axel Cabrera. Now Jonathan Davis and Cabrera are going to go side by side into the corner there. The 86 white car is Cabrera that just lost 3 positions. Now the 94 of Nick Leverone. Yeah, the 94 is a different look for Leverone's car, so we missed him in all of that shuffle, but he is in the plain black car now in 2nd. Burris getting away just a little bit, but it's not going to last very long.
They work their way onto the front straightaway. Burris up into, looks like 8th spot. Leverone just behind him.
One of the former race leaders, has rejoined this battle after his off. Chuck Mactutus in the background with the black and yellow, just kind of hanging back. Lots of attack down into turn 1, heavy rain. Jonathan Davis tries the outside, 3 wide at the apex, and it's a big slide for Cabrera. This is epic stuff. Todd Burris also losing traction. Jonathan Davis, a Mid-Ohio specialist, finds the rain line and goes straight to the front in that number 16 car with the red panel on the side. And I think this is now the battle for 5th. Timing and scoring, we need more timing loops. Oh, a big mistake for Jonathan Davis. Locks up, and now Todd Burris gets the position back.
Burris and Davis still side by side through the snake. Burris has to go a little bit wide, climbing over the curb. Burris got that car up on 2 wheels and has taken the lead of this group once again.
Looks like Davis was kind of pushed off the right side of the track and lost a lot of drive off of the lower S's. He didn't get to rejoin until halfway down that straightaway, so he went from front to mid in this whole pack. Axel Cabrera found his way back up to the front, but big tire rub. There's some damage. He might have to worry about cutting that tire in the white with neon orange accents in the second position.
There's Mactutus, who was in the lead draft after that off-course excursion, carrying the braking a little bit too late into the first turn a lap ago. Finds himself mired back in 9th position.
So that is Nick Leveroni at the front of this pack, again, for what we believe to be 5th. Zilich, Bruni, Nickel, and Pardus seem to still be up in front of this, I don't know, dozen-car battle for 5th.
Dozen cars, about right. Leveroni with the advantage right now as they climb the hill up over the crest of Madison Avenue.
Chuck Mactutus picks a new dancing partner in Todd Burris, pushes him up towards the back of Axel Cabrera. Those are the 3 cars on the far right of your screen. Goulart, a former race leader as well, is in this one for 5th, as well as a bunch of cars we haven't even had the chance to talk about yet. That's the 23, it looks like, of Sam Craven, losing a position to the 198 of Daniel Conway.
Grayson Farischon, former leader, back in 15th now as they come to the line. Connor Zilich, your leader.
Well, we're seeing a full-course
caution. Somebody is off as we can see the wreckers beginning to roll. I'm sure Connor Zilich did not want to see that, and it's Matt Davis into the tire barrier. And that's up at Oak Tree. So while we've got a break here under this full course yellow to recover Matt Davis's car, let's just take a quick break and thank our partners at Mazda.
In the past, working with other manufacturers, we've strictly provided race services to them and raced and developed engines and things like that. This is more of a production-based program with Mazda where we actually build the cars, support them, with technical support, ad-track support. It's really based more on production than it is racing only. It all leads into the same game. It's on-track performance, making a better product for Mazda.
We start off by removing all the interior panels. We do leave some electrical components leaved on because we have to be ready for the welding process to make sure we don't arc or short anything out. Our internal welders get together and we start MIG welding all the base plates inside the car. Again, the car, before it's welded, has to be prepared to make sure it's nice and clean after the car is welded with this beautiful roll cage, which is an FIA homologated roll cage. It's been approved by the FIA to race all over the world. It gets prepared, gets taken over to the paint shop where David, our painter, an amazing job gets performed, and he coats the entire car, the interior, the roll cage, to make sure. We installed the header, the exhaust system. They move on to the suspension, the brake system. We install the dashboard back in with the new additional harnesses. We also install the new Bosch ECU. If a customer selects the option to have a seat, we also install the seat. Finishes the electronic wiring, the ECU box, the safety belt, the fuel samples, the mirror, anything that they can customize to basically get ready for going on the track.
Mazda, ourselves, and Anderson Promotions are all looking at other manufacturers and competitors coming into the series, so we're trying to elevate the complete MX-5 Cup brand across the entire industry. One of the biggest was joining up with IMSA. We've had great expansion, exposure. It's been all around just a big improvement for both Mazda, the series, FLIS, everybody involved. This series has definitely become something along the lines of the pro ladder. Guys that are coming out of go-karting, they want to be in the most competitive series that's out there. This is where you need to be right now. It's all the best kids that are coming up. The competition level is incredible. I think the platform that Mazda has created, not only with the MX-5, but their whole complete product line, it's just such an enjoyable car, and people just match with them very well. Once they've driven a Mazda, they always want to drive a Mazda. It's just a phenomenal product, and it really empowers driving and the feel of driving and the feel of an automobile.
Clearly Mazda, one of the foundations of SCCA racing. And we're back to Virginia International Raceway with this full course yellow, the Mazda safety car bringing the field around. Connor Zilich, one of the competitors in that Idemitsu MX-5 Cup. That spot you just saw gives a good demonstration of the next step for a lot of these drivers that are familiar with running club racing and Spec Miata, want to getting into the pro ranks. The MX-5 Club may be the best racing in North America. They've got, if you've seen any of the finishes of some of those races, coming to the line 4 and 5 wide with microseconds literally separating first through fifth on some of these races. It's great, great racing.
So we're hearing that the caution is for Morissette Jr. in the 133 car off, obviously right where we're looking in turn 3. Waiting on further reports from that, as well as that slight off from Matt Davis we saw over at Oak Tree. We have 2 laps remaining and about 4 minutes on the clock, so we're waiting to see whether or not we'll get any form of finish on this race, but already so much has evolved in this race or happened, but Connor Zilich has that lead. Nick Bruni second, Raiden Nickel third. Pretty much Bruni and Nickel inheriting those podium positions due to, well, all of them really, due to offs in a surprise pop-up rainstorm down the front straight into turn 1, where the current leaders were Charles Mactutus and Elivan Goulart, both sending it off the track in those tricky conditions. No warning, and they were the first cars to get to it. Everybody else kind of responding to that, but we have former leaders now peppered through this entire race because of how far they've all dropped down.
Yeah, and again, hopefully we'll get a restart here before we run out of time. With about 3 minutes left, that's looking unlikely as Connor Zilich taking over the lead. And Raiden Nickel has got to be the story of this race, making his first runoffs appearance, only his second year of racing. He is 15 years old and fearless, I'm told.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers I talked to, I got to talk to Raiden Nickel's dad, and he was sharing a lot of the experience that driver has. But the other competitors looking from within the class, they all said, be worried about that number 193. If it rains, everything goes out the window, and he's fearless. He has great car control, and he will drive away from the field. So we'll see if he gets his opportunity to do that. But right now, Connor Zilich, with 1 day of qualifying, qualified 10th, and just returned from Road Atlanta driving that MX-5 Global car, jumps into the 172 NB Miata and finds himself, due to strategic battles and strategic patience, leading this race under full course caution. As far as he's concerned, we're going back to racing, keeping those tires nice and hot.
Yeah, everybody's snaking away to keep as much temperature into the tires as possible in case we get to go back racing, as we are about to complete race lap number 13. Restart this time by is what we're hearing. So we are going to get a green-white checker.
And we believe from our briefing that no race will get well, we'll see when they wave the flags, but they were going to attempt to do a green-white checker, not just a one-lap shootout for these classes here. But again, doing everything we can to make a proper race happen here at the runoffs, whether it's 1 or 2 laps, we'll find out. Green flag this time for Spec Miata under what looks to be, I think, a consistently not raining track. We'll at least go with that.
Yeah, I don't see any constant windshield wipers on. We see just an occasional sweep from the 193 of Raiden Nickel.
Potential complication for this restart, though, is some lap traffic. Looks like the 2nd and 4th cars in the row, the silver, what looks like number 72, and then the black 08, I believe. They're the 2nd and 4th cars in the train. Those are lapped cars, so it's actually the 1st, 3rd, and 5th cars that we're watching for, I think, as we come to the green flag. Hearing from Hayward that that should, again, be a green-white checker. We're expecting 2 laps And again, the black with yellow highlights, Connor Zilic. The blue with orange highlights is Nick Bruni. And then the black with green, Raiden Nickel. Those are your top 3.
And like I say, sandwiched in between the 72 car of John Valenta. That is a lapped car.
Look at Bruni pointing out the window. Get out of the way.
Make room.
Now we come to the restart zone. Look for that green cone on the driver's right. That is where they can accelerate. They may not accelerate before that. Coming up to it now.
And they cannot pass until they get to start finish. They can pop out, but the pass cannot be completed until they get to the start finish line.
And that's a problem for Bruni. He technically can't pass the car that he's next to. He's being very patient. Oh, this is a nightmare. He barely makes the pass just after the start finish line, perfectly timed. But oh man, that's got to be so painful to watch the leader drive away.
Yeah, Zilic is going to have an advantage there as he ducks it in. But look at these cars getting squirrely and going off. I believe that was Raiden Nickel and Preston Pardus off at turn 1 as well. Another car going for a big ride all the way to the tire barrier.
Sam Craven, Elivan Goulart again off. It is still wet down in turn 1. 4 cars at least getting caught out.
Here comes Burris. Right behind him, the 86 of Alex Cabrera.
And no way Burris up to 3rd with those offs in the little NA that could. Just behind him is Axel Cabrera, 2 teammates, I believe. No, that's a mistake. Cabrera out of the X Factor faction there.
And that's Mactutus right up behind Cabrera. So he's had a great recovery as well. So Connor Zilic, Nicholas Bruni, your leaders. And then Todd Burris, who qualified deep in the field.
Ooh, very awkward moments at the bottom of the S's as the lap cars trying to get out of the way so that the leaders can get through. Cabrera still worried about cutting that that left front tire, but it looks like just 2 laps to go. Hang on there, buddy. As they come through South Bend up into Oak Tree for the 2nd to last time.
You'll see the white flag next time by. Burris right out to the edge, all 3 of them right out to the edge. Mactutus right behind Cabrera, and a little bit of a gap behind him to Peter Inser and Jonathan Davis.
Oh, seeing that we may be back to full course caution again for this car. This car rolled off the grid in 4th, but was lapped. The looks like 08 car.
Andrea King, I believe.
Nope, back to green. We're doing our best here, trying to follow timing and scoring. The color changes for us when it changes for you. It looks like we're still green.
Coming to the white flag as far as we can tell. But Connor Zilic able to withstand the challenge from behind. We'll see if Nicholas Bruni can do anything. Pardus hooking up with Mactutus as those 2 veterans have 1 lap to try to run this group down.
That's Cabrera and Mactutus actually got by Cabrera that lap and is locked onto the back of Todd Burris. So that's the black and yellow car that we saw leading the races, working his way back up towards potentially still a podium. Nick Bruni had that heartbreaking restart. Everything went by the way it was supposed to go, but he had to watch Zilic drive away for a moment. He has dug deep and pulled himself right back into contention. This is the wet spot on track. Everybody make it through.
Burris taking the inside line, and he goes wide. Oh,
Zilic is off too.
Our leader's off, and Burris is off. Unbelievable.
All the way to the tires. Heartbreaking for both of those. Nick Bruni goes to the front. Chuck Mactutus to 2nd, and Axel Cabrera finds himself in 3rd.
Remember, Mactutus could win the super sweep if he can win this race. Mactutus has got plenty of incentive to try to get around Bruni.
Bruni looks like he was a little bit deep into turn 4, is going to get a poor run through 5, but gathers it up, gets a good exit off the lower S's. Mactutus needs to time this carefully. He's got technically 3 opportunities to draft right past coming in the remaining portions of this lap.
Alex Cabrera now in a medal position in the 3rd spot, but the battle at the front, Bruni in the golf livery, if you will. Mactutus right behind him. Mactutus started in 3rd in this race. He's had an up and down run, but he is right there challenging to take the win.
Mactutus shoving through the S's, contact at the exit of the corner, bump drafting, pushing Bruni as hard as he possibly can, looks to the outside. It's a little bit early, I think. He's going for squaring up the exit here. Wants a good run down the back straight, hard turn in, goes into the water. He's going to ruin his run.
Goes a little bit too wide. He has no drafting help. He's all by himself. Can he run down Connor Zilic? Can he run down Todd Burris before we get to the end of this lap? And I don't think he can. I think he's lost too much ground.
Oh, Nick Bruni is checking out, and that's going to be Axel Cabrera 2nd. I'm looking for, I think it's Peter Inser, who's found himself in 4th with potentially an opportunity to draft up past onto the podium. It is the 149 car, the very plain white car at the back, quietly finds himself contending for a podium again.
Here comes Mactutus dreams of a super sweep may be evaporating here as Enser all over the back of Cabrera as they come down for the final time. Mactutus not giving up the ghost, hoping for a mistake from Nicholas Bruni here as Bruni goes right out to the edge of the track. Looks to be on his way. Nicholas Bruni would notch his first national championship if he can hold on. Here comes Mactutus. He's getting a run, but I think it's too little, too late. Bruni will take the win. Mactutus has to come home in second spot, side by side at the line. And it looks like Axel Cabrera taking the final podium spot over Peter Enser. 9/1000ths of a second at the stripe separated those two. Still racing here, deeper in the pack. The 14, the 78 coming to the line. That's Amy Mills, and the 78 of Theodore Cahill. Cahill taking 14th, Amy Mills in 15th. Amy Mills started deep in the pack. She was 45th and ends up in 15th position. 72, a little bit beat up here as John Valenta making his way to the line. One of many cars with a little bodywork damage, if you will. And there's Connor Zilic. What a disappointment from the lead.
Yeah, I can only say he's in good company for having so many of our top drivers, so many of our big names, the guys you aim to be, the guys that these guys look up to. Almost all of them made the same mistake in this race. Simple offs down in turn one with massive consequences. The only guys that didn't ended up right here at the front. In fact, Chuck Mactutus, who finished second, he made that mistake and he still raced his way back up there. Nick Bruni just has to be beaming and overwhelmed, more overwhelmed than we are from watching that, having executed such a strong race there, fist pumping until his arm falls off onto the back straightaway. Mactutus, Cabrera, a name that we mentioned a bunch in that race, but found himself up in the fold.
Peter Enser is there in front of Axel Cabrera. I think he thinks he took third spot, but according to timing and scoring, it was Cabrera. Of course, they will verify that with a photo finish camera, because depending on the placement of the transponder, 9/1000ths of a second is a couple inches, so it could well be that Enser has that third spot. We'll have to get a ruling from the stewards of the meeting to see who's going to be in the final step of the podium, as they were literally side by side at this point.
Congratulations to Jonathan Davis as well, getting into the top 5 from looking down at the grid. I believe he was down in the 20s and still can't find him. He's somewhere 18th there. Rob Hines in 6th. Travis Wiley in 7th from 4th on the grid. Raced his way back up there. Preston Pardus, defending champion, made that simple mistake. Brought it home 8th. Antonio Abram, Grayson Farischon. A dramatic race for Farischon, rounding it out somehow still with a 10th.
Antonio Abram, one of our rookies, started well down the order, back in 30th spot.
Wow.
So a great run, great survival run for him.
It's a killer charge.
Yeah, you bet. Cam Ebbett, too, also coming up from deep in the pack. Just a real quick mention, Patrick McGovern in the 0, Logan Causey in the 96, Russell King in the 12, Whitfield Gregg in the 17, William Keeling in the 11, Andrea King in the 08, we already talked about her, John Valenta in the 72 with the beat-up car, Brad Williams in the 7, Grant McDonald in the 50, and Dan Harding in the 84, the last 10 starters that we didn't get a chance to introduce at the front of the field. But a very happy Nicholas Bruni getting congratulations from his crew, as his passenger for the victory lap already climbing aboard.
Well, ironically, we talked about the E Street racing cars struggling a little bit this week. Look at the banner. One of them won.
Let's head down to Hayward Wagner with a very excited winner. Perhaps not one anybody expected.
Guys, I don't know if you could see how much sweat was on the balaclava of Nick Bruni getting out of the car, getting in the car, getting the medal. His wife has been watching the race with their twin 11-month-old daughters. She's jumped in the car. She's not going to miss out on this ride. I think the children are on their own for the next couple of minutes. Nick Bruni, national champion. How does that feel?
I can't believe it. It hasn't sunk in yet.
Was there a point where you just looked up and realized there was no one in front of you? When did you realize you were leading this race?
You know, not until the final straightaway, because I didn't want to believe it. I had to stay cool, collected, and I had to bring it home. I tell you what, that back straightaway is the longest straightaway of my life, watching Chuck in my mirror, thinking about where I was going to brake coming into that final roller coaster turn, and oh my God, wow. That was amazing. That's 12 years of just hard work, dedication to get here.
I know you got some people to thank.
I can't thank my beautiful wife, Karen, enough. Can't thank everybody that's gotten me here, my 2 beautiful daughters that are here. My daughter Marie's had 2 open heart surgeries, and she's only 11 months old. It's been a rough year, but I got to thank Mazda, I got to thank Jim Drago, ESR, Mike Collins, Meathead Racing, Mazda, Hoosier. I mean, there's just so many people out there to thank. And
so much emotion, so much joy. Congratulations on your national championship. You, sir, get to take a victory lap. Enjoy it.
Woo! Thank you.
You think this racing doesn't mean anything to these guys? You can tell by the emotion in Nick Bruni's voice. This is a big deal for these drivers. It's the Super Bowl of motorsports for these club racers, and Nick Bruni is going to have a gold medal to take home.
And you win a race that's what we would call normal. That means a lot. When you win a race like that, that's just, give him 10 medals.
Let's go back down for our second and third place finishers with Hayward Wagner.
Charles, I'm looking at the front of your car right here. There's mud, there's paint, there might be some blood. I'm not sure. What was this race like?
Oh, it was a battle from the very beginning. I mean, I was defending from lap 2 or 3 and went off there and won. I got hit from behind a little bit and knocked off, and then the yellow came out, and that really saved the race. And and then the last lap, it went from, I went from 9th to 2nd in 2 laps. That was awesome. I was shouting in the car. It was so awesome. Yeah. And
congratulations to you on a silver. A very wild race. Axel, come on over. We're going to get our third place finisher real quick. This guy looks clean, calm, cool, collected. Were you in the Spec Miata race?
Yeah.
Tell me about your race.
Honestly, I went out there pretty nervous. I mean, I've never driven a Miata in this kind of conditions, and just knew that if I kept calm and didn't go off, I had a chance. So that's all I was trying to do, just not make a mistake and make sure I stayed on the track, and it ended up paying off. So.
Well, I think you're the only car on the podium that didn't have an off, so congratulations on the bronze.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Hayward. Great to hear from Chuck Mactutus and Axel Cabrera. Obviously happy with their podium finishers, but nobody's happier than this guy, Nicholas Bruni, and his lovely wife taking the victory lap. Here are the highlights, and there's going to be a bunch of them.
Must just be the whole race.
Yeah, just about. Danny Steyn and Preston Pardus side by side. Unbelievably, everybody got through this first sequence of turns without any contact, without anybody spinning off. But then that was about the end of that, is right there. There's Burris going off, and he was the leader at the late stages. A big off here all the way down at the bottom of the grass, as you can get some idea of just how slippery it is. And then there's a spin by Pardus, and that allows Mactutus to get by him, just as it looked like our front runner Danny Steyn was going to run away and hide. Suddenly he's in 4th spot. Mactutus taking the lead over Grayson Farischon, as Farischon was a leader early on. And then this scary moment as the eventual winner gets into the back of Danny Steyn. A little bit of dominoes there as Preston Pardus getting shuffled offside. And then here's one of the turning points in the early stage of the race as Goulart goes off alongside with Pardus. Then we've got the 66 of Mactutus, and then this was the final denouement, if you will, as Connor Zilich and Todd Burris, who are battling for the lead, go off on the first turn on the restart, and that opened the door for this man, Nicholas Bruni. So what an exciting race for our biggest field of the runoffs. Thank you so much to Tom O'Gorman, my partner here in the commentary booth, and Hayward Wagner down on the pit straight. What a great day of racing we've had, but there's plenty more to come for the 59th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs from VIR. I'm John Phippen. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you down the road.
Why race? Because it's in our blood. A love of driving that pushes us as hard on the road as it does on the track. It's why we reinvented the Roadster and put a piece of it into every car we make. It's why we refine, rethink, and refine again. And it's why we'll always engineer to your heart's BPM, not simply an engine's RPM. Why race? Why?